Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here in this presentation. I'd like to present some of my work in relation with algorithmic experience, and I think this is a very good chance to express my gratitude to Professor Annika Waern, she's here, and she was my supervisor during this work, and she made all of this possible, so thank you very much. To start with, maybe we already mentioned all the implications that algorithms are having in our daily lives. I mean, particularly what we're interested in our paper is that we mentioned that some of these algorithms are having very important social implications. Should be called maybe some sort of algorithms that are experience-worthy. And why we call them experience-worthy? Because they create these big implications that we have noted in previous presentations, and also they could also create bad experiences while we're using these systems. For example, there are user experience issues like algorithmic aversion, which is something in which people are so afraid of using the technology that they just reject it, and they also even prefer a human intervention rather than using the solution or the technology. And this will also increase costs and make a lot of problems in relation with the use of the technology. They could also provoke anger, unjust feelings, distrust, and many other bad feelings around the technology that we're using and that have these algorithms included. So, what we're calling for the community is a proposed solution based in this concept of algorithmic experience. So what is algorithmic experience? Is an analytical framing for making the interaction with an experience of algorithms explicit. Maybe we have been talking already about how to solve transparency, accountability, sinful or not sinful design, things like that. We're calling to use this concept as a value-neutral, user-centered analytical tool that used as a property of the service, system, or the interface that we're dealing with. And in this case, what we think about it is that maybe the problem is what the citation is here described, like algorithms maybe may not speak to individuals, but actually they might speak through them. And this is our call here. Let's try to study what users are saying and which are the implications that algorithms are having with them, and therefore let's design tools, solutions, based on those expressions that the users are expressing. For our case, we decided to use a social media tool, in this case Facebook, in the mobile version, and we performed like a three-step methodology following like a research through design way, saying like, for example, as a first step, we address a semiotic inspection analysis, which is a way to try to understand which are the actual intentions of the designer, in this case for Facebook newsfeed. And also, we performed a sensitizing workshop in which we first made a primary tutorial about what algorithms are in general. As Slamy has portrayed it in previous works, actually, one of the main difficulties while working with algorithmic experience and algorithms in general is that users have a really low awareness of what our algorithms are, how they work, and which are the implications that they have in our systems. So therefore, this sensitizing workshop started with a priming tutorial about algorithms and how are they used in common applications and daily activities. And then we worked around to try to solve some possible implications with Facebook's algorithm. And then, as a third step, we made a redesign workshop in which we proposed some solutions for improvements in Facebook's interface, and then they came out with possible improvements to have a different version of these solutions. So some examples of some of the results that we gathered during the process is that, for example, we could have like, I don't know, they like to have a question mark in the top right corner, so they can click and then maybe have a possible explanation of what they have the post there. Maybe because they have visited this page before, maybe because they have liked this news from this page or something like that. These kind of explanations. And also one interesting result was they would like to have a low list of interaction friends, let's say. Because sometimes they say, there are friends that they don't appear in my newsfeed, why they don't appear, and this kind of list could increase an awareness of why some friends are not appearing, and maybe they just want to catch up with them, maybe using Messenger to increase the probability of these friends to appear in the newsfeed, or maybe they just want to unfriend because actually the person is not very interested for them. Also, a possible solution was to avoid memories. And in this case, we are offering the chance, for example, to avoid this memory in particular, or just avoid all the possible memories related with that person. And this is because sometimes users feel that Facebook are remembering them things that they don't want to remember. And in this case, also the tool was meant to go in this direction. And also, third solution was to have a more accessible way to manage my newsfeed. And for example, the first option here is just to refresh it constantly, to have recent inputs. And the second one is just to turn off the algorithm. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more later. But to turn off the algorithm in Facebook is just to go to the most recent, right? To avoid the algorithmic experience and therefore just have the newest feeds. And the final option here is just to go to the configuration page that is already offered by Facebook, but it's kind of hard to reach for the users, and sometimes they don't even know that exists. So therefore, we are using this solution here. But our main intention with our work was not actually to improve Facebook interface, because during the entire process, what we came out with is to analyze what users would like to have in this case, and how to improve the algorithmic experience in social media in general. And thanks to all the steps in the methodology that we applied, we came out with these 5 groups of design opportunities, in which all of them try to allow the user to, and in this case, for example, algorithmic profiling transparency, it's to perceive what the algorithm is tracking. For example, is to show how the algorithm understands the person and what the algorithm knows about the person. And for example, one possible solution in this case was the list of low interaction friends. Why these friends are not appearing in this newsfeed? Because the other ones are actually very active with you. The second one is the profiling management, in which users' profile was actually the best place to make this kind of management. Other papers actually say that this kind of profiling management is like some kind of algorithmic self, in which people perceive that this is the way they portray to the system, and therefore one of the best places to put some kind of feature in to manage the profiling is the user's profile, because they think it's also a public face of the users. Then algorithmic user control that, for example, could be divided in 3 different aspects, like turning off the algorithm, in this case, to go to the most recent newsfeed, or to turn off, for example, the tracking or sources that the algorithm is having to understand the users. Sometimes users feel that like kind of scared that they are being tracked, and therefore it's important in terms to increase the algorithmic experience to offer a chance to turn off these tracking systems. And in case these algorithms are having some problems trying to understand what the user is having, in relation with algorithmic disalignement, by the way, we could also provide a way to say, hey, you are doing a wrong work, you are not actually predicting what I like, therefore this is an error in case something happens. In relation with selective algorithmic remembering, could be sometimes related with the algorithmic profiling management, but here with algorithmic remembering, we meant to also offer a way to change this direct information or explicit information that the user could provide to the system. In this case, for example, previous memories, for example, is the most common thing in Facebook. Finally, algorithmic awareness. In this case, we just call to make some tips or recommendations in the newsfeed, to make people aware that the algorithm exists, to make people understand how the algorithm works, and how they can use a better implementation of the tool to improve the experience. In this case, with algorithmic experience, we also found that there are implicit algorithmic spaces. And what are algorithmic spaces? Like this kind of graphical delimited spaces in the interface in which people only expect algorithmic results. What do we mean about it is that there is like an implicit contract between the user and the service provider, in which in this graphical space, we will only offer algorithmic results. If there is some kind of human involvement, if there is some kind of, I don't know, content moderation or changes also in the algorithm, this should be explicitly noted also in terms to increase the algorithmic experience, because then people will feel, oh, they are actually tricking me or something like that. And these 5 groups do not pretend to be completely limited. I mean, they pretend to work together and to provoke this algorithmic experience in social media, and also they are actually completely divided by themselves. Sometimes one feature could improve 1, 2, or even more groups at the same time. But the idea is to offer a guideline for designers and technology producers to come out with a very algorithmic experience and think about possible features in their actual context in social media. Some conclusions with our work is that, sometimes one of the main critiques with algorithmic experience is that the reasons for these bad algorithmic experiences are mostly related with economical reasons, right? We believe that algorithmic experience actually could improve commercial goals. In this case, because sometimes people are actually deleting their accounts because they feel that this algorithmic experience is actually very bad and they just don't want to return to our services. We think that developing a good algorithmic experience would actually increase the chances for our users to stay in our systems and also to maintain the activity in the systems constantly. Also, we noticed that algorithmic experience, the concept as itself, can work as a new kind of lenses for users in general, because after the workshops, they came out with these opinions saying that also now we can be more critical and now we know how technology works in relation with algorithms. And therefore, they will constantly, from now on, ask for better algorithmic experiences in their services, and they become, let's say, like more critical in their user and technological consumption. Finally, the concept of algorithmic experience could also work for designing tools, and in this case, the 5 group of designing opportunities that I presented. And for future research, we would like to perform the same kind of a study, for example, for other social media to see if the same kind of groups came out, and for other technological contexts in which algorithms are also having important implications. For example, human-robot interaction could be a really interesting context to explore how to improve this algorithmic experience in not so common interfaces, but also there are very important implications, as my previous presenters said, like bank loans or more important and directly socially involved implications for the users and things like that. Thank you very much. I'm happy to receive questions now.
Hi, Aaron Halfacre, Wikimedia Research. So one of the things that I was wondering is in your sort of like spiral plot of the controls and insights that a user might like to have about the algorithms in their context, the ability to select whether the algorithm is on or not seems pretty coarse. Like I might want to reappropriate the algorithm to do something different. Say, for example, I ask Google to return me some results, but don't use my implied or implicit preferences to sort the results forward. Actually, flip them backwards. So I want the most relevant stuff that you don't think I'm going to like, so that I might be able to understand that better. And I wonder if like this sort of reappropriation or reuse of the algorithm in different ways sort of fits into the framework that you're putting together.
Yeah, the way for turning on or off the algorithm is completely optional, right? It's just to offer the feature. So in the case the user wants to have their most recent feeds in this case, he or she can make the decision, right? Instead of not knowing, maybe, for example, right now in the Facebook newsfeed, it's kind of hard to find the most recent newsfeed, and sometimes people even don't remember that they have it. So our calling here is just to make it more accessible and to offer always, in any social media context, the option to turn it off just in case you need it. There are cases, for example, in which my home country, for example, I'm from Costa Rica, and we usually have earthquakes. And people would like to have the most recent news related with the earthquake that just happened 1, 2, 3 minutes ago, instead of the algorithmic, let's say, selection of feeds. So in this case, it's just offering the option to turn it on and off, depending on the situation. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, but okay.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, hi, I'm Juliana from IBM Research in Brazil. I am a research colleague of Professor De Souza from the semi-auto inspection method, and I really like your work, and congratulations. I would like to give you a pointer because there's been some follow-up research related to the semi-auto inspection method associated with algorithms.
Awesome.
Particularly to APIs, but maybe this might give you some hints and clues to evolve the AX proposal, which is very, very interesting.
Awesome. I'm really interested in that, and when I found out that the methodology from De Souza actually was very excited because it's kind of work from Latin America, and that's what I'm trying also to improve here.
Yeah, it combines that method with some more stuff to attend to the particulars regarding algorithms. So this might be very interesting to you to look it up.
Awesome. I'm very interested to know about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Bernholtz from Northwestern. So I'm curious about how you think about the tension that sometimes pops up between what users say they want or think they should want and what their engagement and log data shows they're actually looking at, that the algorithm is using to make decisions on their behalf.
Okay, well, quite a huge question in general. Yes? Oh, yes, sure.
Karen.
Sorry.
Karen.
Should I answer that? Here? Okay. How to solve the tension? I think I'm always in particular about user research. I think the most important thing is to research as much as possible to really understand what is the best solution for the tool that I'm designing in this case. The tension could be sometimes tricky, right? Sometimes you want to come out with new technology or new things that actually users don't know. In this case, for example, one of the main problems, again, is the algorithmic awareness, and sometimes you don't even know how to implement user research to understand what they don't know about. So sometimes it can be kind of tricky, but my solution or my answer is always try to come up with more user research in general, to try to find a solution for that tension. But I mean, yes, of course, it could always be open for new technologies and things like that, in which you cannot actually make a proper balance in that case.
Let's think